Welcome everyone who has joined us. I'm Olga from Media Center in Ukrinform. It's 166th day of the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people against the full-fledged invasion of the Russians. And now we're going to be discussing the situation in the south of Ukraine. Live with us is Natalya Humenyuk, head of the United Coordinating Press Center of Security and Defense Forces of the south of Ukraine. Natalia, hello. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Natalia, let's start with the situation over the course of the last 24 hours in the south. In the south, the situation remains to be intense, but it's controlled by our defense troops. Even though the enemy brings in the reserves, trying to create assault formations, finds areas for maneuvers to their troops, but the situation is under our control, including under our fire control, and we're quite substantially adjusting their plans. Namely, the enemy right now finds it difficult to launch any assaults on land. That's why they focus on artillery strikes and air strikes. Ms. Natalia, we have observed our troops hitting Antonivsky and Kakhovsky bridges. So what's the situation there right now? Like I said, fire control that we maintained for quite a while, it's working. It has its purposes. And if properly used, it could perform accurate, high-precision hits on the sites of enemy's infrastructure. So the destruction of enemy command posts and ammunition depots. So far, we have felt quite substantial results of such strikes of our troops. So can you elaborate on it? Both in the south and in other temporary occupied territories of Kherson and Mykolaiv regions, we have targets that we are aware has amassed enemy man and material, and since the enemy is deprived of logistic support, would be demoralized in terms of the troops' morale, and logistically it won't be able to substitute the destroyed weapons and shells to them. As to the Black Sea, what's the situation there? Right now in the Black Sea, there are almost 10 plus minus 1 or 2 enemy ships and cutters, but usually they have 4 maritime means of launching rockets, 2 above water, 2 from underwater, just reminding us at all times that hypothetically they can keep shooting at us. This morning, 1 underwater missile was launched, caliber type, which were shot down by our air defense almost across the whole territory of Ukraine. Mr. Natalia, we can all see that our ships filled with cereals and other foodstuff are leaving Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea, going towards Turkey. So everything goes according to the plan. Can we state that those agreements stay on? The functioning of so-called grain corridors is being carried out under the control of the Istanbul Coordination Center. So far, we haven't identified any problems or provocations. And when we interviewed the crews and the captains of captains of the ships that arrived to Ukraine, and based on the reports of those ships that have already used those corridors. Well, everything is functioning, but we are ready that the enemy might use provocations like the sounds of air alarms sounding in this region a lot. So both grain traders and transporters, carriers will have some concerns because of that. Ms. Natalya, what about the referenda? Yesterday we heard a clear position on this issue from the President of Ukraine, but today we have heard the statement of so-called Zaporizhia occupation authorities that they have signed the documents stating that they're starting to get ready for referendum. Do you have any information on that? The preparation to referendum has been launched at the very beginning of the occupation. We all remember the dates that we heard, April the 20th, then May holidays, then the 9th of May, then it kept being delayed and moved further back. It only proves that things are not moving as smoothly as they claim. Thus, getting enough voters that will help them to imitate pseudo-referendum proves to be impossible for them. They fail to find enough people for that, but they start using different ways of coercing people, scaring people, forcing people to share their personal data, to create such falsified voter rosters. But the movement of resistance is very powerful in the south. Almost every day we can hear news about resistance. So people at the occupied territories have enough resources of strength and spirit to counter such provocations. We have questions in the studio, colleagues. Ukrinform, Elena Kožuchar. Since those bridges were destroyed in Kherson region, what territories now Russia uses to transport their ammunition? And is there any movement of Russian troops towards Transnistria? Well, let me start with Transnistria. The situation there is very calm, well balanced. All those provocations and ideas that and intentions that the enemy has, they're Miss Natalya, we fail to hear you. 1, 2. But, well, finally we can hear you, Natalya. We lost you for a while. Where should I start from? From the beginning of your answer to Transnistria. So, as to Transnistria access, everything is under the control. The country, the national borders are being well protected. We have enough troops there, so even if there is any threat coming from them, we will adequately repel it. We are not observing any accumulation of enemies, men and material there, but we still keep monitoring the situation there, recognizing that that might become the second front as an alternative for us to disperse our forces. As to the reserves at Kherson axis, well, the enemy has not enough alternatives left to carry out their goals. So for the time being, they're trying to bring in more men and material through Crimean Peninsula, but for the time being, they are trying to figure out whether they can use their massed forces to launch an assault or not. Natalya, thank you for finding time to joining us. This was Natalya Humenyuk, the head of the United Coordination Press Center of the Southern Command. Thank you. And we believe in our armed forces, and we together work for our victory. Thank you, and glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.